The weekend's football has brought loads of talking points and you guys have sent yours in our community tab, so we're going to go through quite a few of them, as always, on a Monday. So first off, talk about Man City and Kevin De Bruyne, because that 8-0 thrashing was frankly embarrassing for Watford. I actually spoke to a few Watford fans on Twitter who were getting at me saying, oh, we definitely should have sacked Javi Gracia, all this and that. They did. They brought back someone who didn't do a fantastic job before, and now they've lost 8-0. I know it's Man City, and I'm not trying to say I was right or anything, but there's a lot to be said about that. Anyway, Anthony Rosales says, is Kevin De Bruyne the best player in Europe right now? Yes. On current form, he's mad. He's so good at the moment. I think not on current form, he's just generally one of the most talented players in Europe. But at the moment, the way he's assisting and scoring, and even the way he's so crucial to Man City's play. And last year, even though he was injured for loads of period of time, when he came back, you could see it gave the whole City team a lift. And even if you're making such a big difference to a Man City team who's already good, already dominating the league without you, and then you make even more of a difference, just shows what a ridiculous player Kevin De Bruyne is. CR7DC said, is the City game against Watford a sign of how money influences the game by having better signings, or is it tactics? It is a sign of how money influences the game, but this is nothing new. If you think this is just Man City, then it's happened long before this. Every big team who's had a load of money to spend has been successful in the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years. No matter what's happened, it's just because I think it's far more prominent nowadays, and the money is is completely unrealistic to the rest of life. Like around the world, the money that's being spent on players is absolutely nuts, so it wasn't so crazy 20 to 30 years ago. It was still big, but it's not absolutely ridiculous. What I do think though is, if money had changed football so much, then City would be winning everything. And they haven't won the Champions League, and they're currently 5 points behind Liverpool. So I guess it's not necessarily money making everything. And as for tactics, it definitely is down to tactics. Pep Guardiola is an unbelievable manager, and everyone says, oh, he's just a money manager. He just gets given an amazing squad. If he got given an amazing squad, why didn't he win everything? And secondly, some of the squads he's been given, he's made players better. He went into Bayern Munich, right, 2013. Pep Guardiola took over a Bayern Munich side who just won the treble for the first time in their history. They just won the treble. He took their side and told them all, forget about what you know about winning everything across Europe. I'm going to teach you a new style of football. And he did that. Surely the hardest job in football is to take the best and make them better. Because technically, how could Guardiola have got better than a treble? He couldn't. The only thing you're doing by taking over the best team is failing. You can only take a step down if you're at the top. So the fact he's managed to do that and come out with such, an amazing reputation from Bayern Munich, then to Manchester City, just shows that he's a world-class manager. And Raheem Sterling is the perfect example. Look at the player he was when he joined for Liverpool. A good player. People were questioning 50 million, from Liverpool. He was a great player. And now he's just world-class. He's definitely in the top 5 in the world. Raheem Sterling, probably number 5. At least in the top 10. It just shows you that even though, yes, Guardiola does have a lot of money and Man City do have a lot of money, and of course their money has helped them, I'm not denying it hasn't, it has helped them bring in the best players around the world and win loads of trophies in the last decade. It's not just all down to that, otherwise it would be rather simple. So, next up, onto VAR. This topic, I'm sorry for you guys, is going to pop up every week because it just gets more and more ridiculous, and I'd like to point out, it's not necessarily VAR, because VAR is giving the referees, and the referees who are sat in this VAR van, wherever they are, the opportunity to review contentious calls. It's the rules that are in place that then make VAR look ridiculous. All the handballs, for example, that are spotted by VAR, that's not VAR doing it, that's the handball rule. So they're actually two separate things. The main one here, someone says, D Taki has said, does VAR ruin the momentum of a game for a team when it doesn't go their way and put the team's spirit down? There's another comment that says, obviously the Son call was offside, Heung-min Son for Spurs. Was it or was it not? Should Johnny Evans' line be taken from his elbow instead of his knee? And why aren't the VAR showing a straight line from the linesman view? I really need to hear your answer. There's so much to discuss. There's so much to pick apart about VAR. Don't get me wrong, I've said before, sometimes it works, sometimes it goes for your team, sometimes it doesn't. You obviously hate it when it goes against your team and you're really mad, and you love it when it goes for your team and you can all celebrate and you picked up a point or 3 points or whatever. The Heung-min Son call though is so unbelievably ridiculous, and it's not even about where the line is based, because I know some people have said if you look at the bottom of the lines it's kind of based a little bit off. We're talking about a few millimeters under his armpit, which is deemed to be gaining an advantage. The whole point of VAR is that referees can overturn a clear and obvious error. How on earth is 3 millimeters on someone's armpit clear and obvious? It definitely didn't change the way that the attack unfolded, because Johnny Evans was there, right? And the ball was won back. I think Sionchu tackled Son, Harry Kane passed it to Aurier, who then scored. So that could technically be another phase of play in itself. But there isn't an advantage to be gained. In the same match, Ayoze Perez was called offside for Leicester, and the goal was disallowed, rightly so. They looked back on VAR. Perez was 4 or 5 yards ahead of the last Tottenham defender, had a direct impact in the goal. That, of course, is offside. If the linesman had got that wrong, they could have looked at VAR, overturned it, fine. But going ahead and looking back at a goal that the linesman didn't see and deciding that those millimeters are crucial in the build-up is absolutely absurd. It really, really is. And there needs to be a line drawn in football where there needs to be a clear and obvious advantage. Mason Mount had his foot offside, Liverpool-Chelsea game. The play continues, goes to the other side of the pitch, then eventually Azpilicueta scores. Was his foot the real cause of gaining an advantage? Because he was still stood in that direction. He was just stood there and his foot was just lazily dangling out to the left. You could have said he was lazy and you should have noticed. But come on, there is no way he's gained advantage from that. If there's a direct advantage to be gained, like Ayoze Perez 4-6 yards out in the middle of the goal, fair enough, VAR offside. But these marginal things are just absolutely ridiculous. And yes, talking about the momentum, I do think it does. It makes everyone look ridiculous. You celebrate a goal and then you've got to wait. The players aren't really showing raw passion, because they celebrate and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, it's going to be called off. It can be incredibly frustrating. And if you look at the Spurs game, 5 minutes later, Leicester were level and they went on to win the game. Spurs have a lot more questions to answer than just to the VAR. They've got to take a long, hard look at themselves as well. But there's no doubt that, as for the momentum, it can completely kill games. Sometimes completely kill it, especially the time it takes. Right, moving on from VAR and to Ernesto Valverde, because so many of you Barca fans just want to know what the hell is going on. I'm going to try and maybe give some suggestions. I definitely don't have the answers for this. Dynamic Animator has said, when will Valverde be sacked and who is most likely to replace him? Leon also said, what should Barcelona do to improve? Just don't rely so much on Messi. They need to build more of a team. Don't get me wrong, I understand somewhat from Valverde if you're expecting a lot from Messi. He's one of the best players in the world, if not the best. You guys have your debate about that. And so you can understand why you'd rely on them. You always rely on your best player in the team. But in years gone by, Barcelona were a solid team. You know, Xavi, Busquets, Iniesta in the midfield were brilliant. Carlos Puyol at the back. There was space out wide. There was Neymar, as we said. Luis Suarez was banging them in. Antoine Griezmann has got to take a lot of pressure after 100 million or more transfer. So just throwing Messi on is a ridiculous tactic, but I can kind of see why Valverde would turn to him. Aside from this though, the tactics are shocking. The midfield three have nothing. They literally look to be doing something a little bit too similar. And I'm not saying all of them have to be attacking. Liverpool have 3 midfielders in Henderson, Fabinho and Wijnaldum. None of them are 20-goal-a-season goal scorers, but they do a job and they do what they need to do. It seems that Barcelona, each part of the field, they're all just playing their own game. The defence is trying to do a bit of defending, although they definitely didn't do that against Granada. The midfielders are doing a bit of passing, and the attackers are trying to score. There's no link between the two. There's no sort of movement. There's no nothing, and I'm really going to struggle to see them, win the Champions League or La Liga this season. And having said that, things looking a little bit better for Real Madrid, but I still think Zidane has a lot to do to win back everybody at the club. And they do have the derby against Atletico Madrid coming up in the weekend. But as for who's going to take over at Barcelona, so Xavi's been speaking about it, knows the club, former legend, would command respect from everybody, has said he'd have no problem managing his teammates, which is obviously something that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Frank Lampard are coming to terms with. I wouldn't say they're struggling, but they're coming to terms with. Not Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, but Lampard. Elsewhere, Ten Hag produced some brilliant football with Ajax. I can definitely see him doing something brilliant at Barcelona. Xavi, I don't think is experienced enough. And I'm not so sure that Barcelona should be going for, it's not their way, for a manager who's got his own style. They need to fit into Barcelona rather than Barcelona changing everything just to accommodate a new manager. Real Madrid do that. Real Madrid don't have as much of an identity. They love attacking football. They don't have as much of an identity that Barcelona do. So when a new manager comes in, whether it's Mourinho, Ancelotti, Benitez, whoever, they can put their own style on the squad. because they can do they can change things within the first team and it won't restructure the whole club as well with Barcelona. Honestly, I couldn't think of who would be a good choice for the next Barcelona manager. Maybe Pochettino if things go worse for Spurs, but he has said that being an Espanyol guy, he's definitely not taking over there. The next one from Vipul Bardwaj, who has said, I think you were the one moron, I'm the one moron apparently, who said Real Madrid is going to lose to Sevilla. So anything further to add? Wow, apparently I was the one moron in the whole world who said Real Madrid were going to lose. Yeah, I did think Real Madrid were going to lose to Sevilla. Why wouldn't you? Real Madrid aren't playing great at all. Had a shocking performance in midweek, and then they go away to the unbeaten league leaders. Forgive me for thinking that they might slip up again, because they certainly have not shown that they're capable of keeping a clean sheet away from home and scoring and winning. So yeah, you, Mr. Vipul, you've done very well at being the captain of hindsight and, coming and speaking after the game. But before the game, I think is where the more interesting discussion would happen. But nonetheless, considering that Atletico Madrid drew at home to Celta, that's a pretty good weekend for Real. Right, next up, and Rafael Umdor has said, do you think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plan for a young British squad is going the wrong way, or do you think it requires time? Love your videos, been watching them a lot lately. Cheers, thank you very much, Rafael. I'm not so sure that he's planning for a young British squad. I just think that's what's becoming available, and it's almost what the fans are demanding. There's so much talk all the time about, and it's not just from English players, but the class of 92. When's the next class of 92 for Man United? Ajax will have the same problem. When's the next De Jong and De Ligt? La Masia are coming under massive scrutiny at the moment at Barcelona. When's the next Messi coming through? A lot of fans do demand this kind of stuff, but if there's a better player to be played in that position, I'm sure Man United and I'm sure managers would definitely take that option. Manchester City are doing it. Don't get me wrong, they've got some good young players that come through. They let go of Jadon Sancho. Phil Foden's been given chances by Guardiola. Not a huge amount this season, but he has been given chances. If there's a better player in a better position, when you get to the top of the Premier League and pretty much the Premier League, you're going to go out and sign that player regardless of his nationality. It's sort of very, not foolish, but, to give these guys chances. Chelsea are doing it because they have to. Chelsea are under a transfer ban, and they've got players who are definitely good enough, as has been seen on recent loans. Right, but as elsewhere, Spurs are always the ones with a lot of English players, right? And, it's fortunate that that's happened. Hasn't always been like that. And I'm sure when they sell players and someone else comes available, they'd go and do that. I mean, they had Ollie Skip, who was ready to come into the first team, but went and signed Tanguy and Ndombele instead. So I'm not so sure he's necessarily going the wrong way with building a British squad. I just think those are the players that are available to him at the moment, and his time should be judged on the performance and the results of the squad, not whether or not he can't go into the boardroom, Solskjaer, and say, I know the results, the performances are crap, but I'm building a British team. That's not going to fly, unfortunately. He's got to produce the results. At the moment, he's not. It doesn't look so good. I was really impressed with the way Chelsea, for example, as a young British squad, did against Liverpool, but both of them need really good results and good finishes to the season, and good campaigns on the field to have any chance of holding on to their job. But those are just a few of the topics that you guys sent in, but that's all we've got time for today. Thanks so much for discussing on the community tab, in the comments. Even you can get at me on Twitter, Matt_Froelich. If you guys want to discuss absolutely anything, and keep sending in your topics. Every Sunday night I'll be putting a community post out on YouTube where you guys can let me know what you want to be discussed on a Monday. But until next time, enjoy the football this week, and I'll see you guys later.